Since the natural moisture in many foods can become a breeding ground for organisms like harmful bacteria and fungi, food preservation can be considered as a critical process to ensure the health of the people. Therefore, as we can see in the graph showing the bacteria growth rate and function of storing temperature, it is important to avoid to store food at temperature between 20 degree to 45 degrees Celsius, which is the optimal range temperature for bacterial growth. Among the traditional methods of preservation are drying, open sun drying, or preservation using chemical and microbes, such as curing or fermentation. Modern methods include heat treatment process and refrigeration. Refrigeration is the most advanced method for preservation. Advances in packaging materials have also played an important role in modern food preservation. Refrigeration and freezing processes consist in the removal of heat from the food to be preserved in order to maintain a certain storage temperature. The main categories of available technologies can be identified as follows. There are two: active and the passive refrigeration. For active refrigeration, we have the first one is the mechanical vapor compression, which is based on the principle that heat is absorbed by a fluid, which is a refrigerant, that changes from a liquid to a gas, lowering the temperature of objects around it. The second one is absorption heat driven, which includes technologies such as absorption and or adsorption, which are thermally driven systems. The third one is thermoelectric refrigeration, uses Peltier effect to create a heat flux between the junction of two different types of materials. The last one is Stirling refrigeration, which uses a sealed heat transfer system that has two moving parts, a piston and a displacer, and which can use helium or other non-refrigerant gases as the working fluid. In case of passive refrigeration, this process includes cooled containers using ice, underground refrigeration, and evaporative coolers. Drying processes can be broadly classified based on water removing methods applied as thermal drying and osmotic dehydration. Drying reduces the water activity, thus preserving foods by avoiding microbial growth and deteriorative chemical reactions. In thermal drying, a gaseous or void medium is used to remove water from the material, while in osmotic dehydration, a solvent or solution is applied to remove water. Since drying tends to spoil the quality of food products, the most suitable varieties of the foods that can be preserved with the drying process are cereals and legumes, because they change slightly their properties after drying processes. The quality changes are time and temperature dependent. The techniques that use high temperatures drying, the drying process generally introduce irreversible transformation, such as protein denaturation, which is insoluble, also aroma and colors, and the loss of firmness and shape. Chemicals and microbes. Food preservations are natural substances which, under certain conditions, either delay the growth of microorganisms without necessarily destroying them or prevent deterioration of quality during manufacture and distribution. The most ancient form of metabolic preservation technology is fermentation, which is strongly linked to culture and the tradition, especially in the rural households and village communities. It consists in a process in which an organism converts a carbohydrate such as starch or a sugar into an alcohol or an acid. Some chemicals, foreign compounds, can be also added to prevent the growth of microorganisms. The most used compounds include some natural food constituents such as ascorbic acid or nitrates and nitrites. The addition of any natural substances is commonly called curing. Extreme cautions must be exercised in adding nitrate or nitrite to foods, since too much of either of these ingredients can be toxic to humans. The primary aim of heat treatment is to free the food from any microorganism that might cause deterioration and endanger the health of the consumer. The preservation by heating can be done with three different methods according to the temperature that can be reached. The first one is pasteurization, means a comparatively low order of heat treatment, generally at a temperature below the boiling point of water. The more general aim of pasteurization is to extend product shelf life from a microbial and enzymatic point of view. Pasteurization is frequently combined with another means of preservation like concentration, chemicals, acidification, etc. Sterilization means the complete destruction of microorganisms. Since the resistance of certain bacterial spores to heat in sterilization process, the food to be preserved should be subjected to a treatment of at least 121 degrees Celsius of wet heat for 15 minutes or its equivalent. Another one is the packaging. So, in addition to the direct approach to food preservation such as pasteurization and sterilization, other measures such as packaging process is needed to avoid contamination or recontamination of the treated food. Although these measures are not considered preservation techniques, they can play an important role in producing high quality safe food. You can see from the table, it can be observed that we have different kind of variety of the foods and different kind of the preservation techniques. So, what is the applicability of different kind of technologies for different kind of foods? We can directly see from this table. For example, refrigeration, which is the most advanced technology for preservation, can be used for all kind of foods like dried foods, fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, fish and the meat. Also packaging is the same thing. However, for example, like smoking, we can be used only for the fish and meats. We cannot use for other category of the foods.